Hello everyone, my name is Angelo. I'm a passport brother who brought his fiancée from Vietnam to come live with me in the United States. We got married, she's got a green card, and now we are attempting to live the best half of our life together here in the States. But that will soon change. But if you've watched any of my other videos, you know that my goal is to ultimately move to Southeast Asia, become an expat, and live the hopefully very long rest of my life out in the heat and jungle atmosphere of Southeast Asia. But today I wanted to talk to you about an update on what's going on. I spoke with 3 lawyers today. And I've got another appointment to speak to one tomorrow morning at 10, and I'm looking forward to that. One of the lawyers that I spoke with did give me some good news, so I was happy about that. And as this thing progresses, I will share more details with you guys about that. But I wanted to talk to you or mention a philosophy that I've had since 18, 19, 20 years old, something like that. And I've always been the kind of person that recognized when things happen in a cycle, or when things kind of fall into some sort of a pattern. And I think that's why I got into IT, or I should say why I was fairly good at IT, because the troubleshooting aspect is really about recalling things that have happened in the past and then kind of calculating where those events are going to lead you, or what's the likely cause of those events. And I think that really applies to most of life if you're paying attention. A lot of people do the same things over and over again, and they expect a different result. And some people consider that insanity, or maybe it's just knuckleheadness and stupidity. Who knows? But if you do the same thing over and over again, rarely, if ever, will you get a different outcome. So what I've learned to recognize is that certain things happen in a pattern and they happen in a cycle. And when you can kind of foreshadow that, or kind of look to the future, or expect it, it can ease the stress of your life just a little bit. And I'll tell you an example. When I was a kid, and my dad used to give me a spanking, and my dad was like, he was brutal with the spankings. I mean, with the big leather belt and everything. And he would give us spankings, or give me a spanking. And while he was giving me a spanking, I would think to my head, wow, if this was tomorrow, I wouldn't feel any of this right now. This would all be over. It would just be a different memory, and I wouldn't even remember the pain that I'm in right now. And I would say that every time I got a spanking, and when it got to the point where I was getting into trouble, I knew I was doing something wrong, and knew I was going to get a spanking, I would say, okay, just think about tomorrow. Just think about tomorrow. And of course, when tomorrow came, and I looked back at the spanking I received 24 hours ago, it was saying, yeah, okay, whatever. It's done. It's done deal. So I learned to expect that, and then kind of ease the current suffering by knowing what to expect later on in life. And another example is I had a friend who was in the Marine Corps with me, and his girlfriend dumped him. And he was just miserable, just absolutely miserable. And I remember I had just got my car, and he was learning how to drive. And so I said, hey, come, I'm going to come pick you up. I'm gonna put you behind the wheel. I'm gonna, you know, take you out for a ride. Let you learn how to drive. So while he was driving, I told him, I said, hey, I know that this hurts now, but I guarantee you 2 weeks from now, when you're thinking about what you're going through, or when you think about what you went through, agonizing over the fact that this chick dumped you and how she dumped you, 2 weeks from now is not going to have nearly as much impact. Just trust me. Just look forward to that time 2 weeks from now. And sure enough, 2 weeks later, he called me up and we were just talking. He said, hey, you know what, man, fuck that bitch, man. Fuck that bitch. And he just went on and on. He was feeling fine. He was feeling good. And, I thought this was like my thing, right? I thought it was like my thing. This is how I could, rule the world with this whole, hey, think about the future and it won't hurt so much today. But I was watching Lost. And there was something that happened in the very first episode that reminded me of a kind of offshoot of my my philosophy. Because my philosophy meant that when you're feeling bad, stop trying to convince yourself that you're not feeling bad. Stop trying to act like you're not feeling bad. Stop trying to act like you're not depressed. You're not angry. You're not anxious. You're not sad. You're not sorrowful. You're not more. Stop doing that. Just allow those emotions to happen, because the body's got to go through that process. It's got to process those emotions. And so I'm watching this episode of Lost, and Jack, one of the main characters, talks about how he gives himself 5 seconds to deal with a shock.
I might throw up on you.
You're doing fine.
You don't seem afraid at all. I don't understand that.
Well, fear's sort of an odd thing. When I was in residency, my first solo procedure was a spinal surgery on a 16-year-old kid, a girl. And at the end, after 13 hours, I was closing her up, and I accidentally ripped her dural sac. It's right at the base of the spine where all the nerves come together. Membrane as thin as tissue, and so it ripped open. And the nerves just spilled out of her like angel hair pasta. Spinal fluid flowing out of her, and the terror was just so crazy, so real. And I knew I had to deal with it. So I just made a choice. I'd let the fear in, let it take over, let it do its thing, but only for 5 seconds. That's all I was going to give it. So I started to count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And it was gone.
And he was like losing his shit. And he just said, okay, let me just let all of these terrified emotions just overcome me, but only for 5 seconds. And then after 5 seconds, back to business. And when I watched that, it reminded me that that's how I deal with a lot of situations. I don't try to hide the fact that I'm disappointed, or if I'm disappointed in a person or people for what they did or did not do. I don't try to hide that. I don't try to act like it doesn't bother me. I may not say much about it. And like, for instance, in this recent situation, my wife always asks me, she says, well, how do you feel? How do you feel about XYZ person who hasn't reached out to you, or XYZ person who hasn't called you, and they used to call you all the time? And I would say, yeah, it sucks. It sucks really bad, but you know, what am I going to do? I can't force them to call me or reach out or to check on me. But the sadness is still there. You know, the anger is still there. The disappointment is still there. But this thing has been going on for just over a week. And I know in my head, in a week from now, I'm going to be saying, fuck those people. Fuck that bitch. Fuck that fool. Fuck that dude. And I won't think about it at all. Or certainly not in the same way. And so for now, I just let the emotions go. I feel what I feel. But at a certain point, it'll be back to business. And when I get back to business, I get back to business all the way. It's got to get done. And so I just want to share that tidbit with you. Hopefully it will inspire you that if you are going through something, give it its due process. Let those emotions, let those feelings, just let them have their way. Let them do their thing. Don't go crazy or do anything stupid. But, you know, get someplace alone and let those emotions have their way, and then give it time. And when the time is over, put all that shit behind you and go straight ahead. All right, folks. Thank you for listening. This is Angelo. I will check with you on the next one. I'm trying to get to 1,000 subscribers. So please like, comment, and subscribe. And I will see you in the next one. Peace out.